Hey everyone, it's Alan Schimmel. Happy Friday. It's Friday. Can you believe it's Friday? This week, I blinked, it was Monday. We've got a lot to talk about, including that little phone in your, or maybe it's a big phone in your pocket. Maybe it's a folding phone in your pocket. But there's a phone in your pocket and it could be your gateway to AI going forward. We're going to talk about that. We've got more. We've got a great gang to talk about it with. Some of our best characters on the gang. Joining us is Camberley Bates. Camberley, it's great to see you.
Good to see you too. How are the Yankees doing?
Well, they won. I think they won their last two games against Seattle, but it's almost All-Star break. We're limping into the break. Ira Winkler is here, of course, our security person extraordinaire, who's never short of an opinion.
Nah, glad to be here.
Yeah.
Always happy to give that opinion.
And also joining us out in Silicon Valley, our man in the Valley, John Swartz, as well as the Dean, Mike Vizard. Guys, lady, welcome. Let's jump into it. Mike, Samsung announced the next version of their foldable, I guess, is it still a Galaxy or is it something else now?
Was
it a Razr?
Something else these days. That's a Fold 7.
Fold 7, of course, rolls right off the tongue. But more importantly than the folding is the AI. What do we got here?
Yeah, so Samsung was in Brooklyn this week, where all the cool kids are hanging out in New York, and had a big event. And I appreciate what everybody's doing there, but it was basically a 2-hour plus commercial, and so that was kind of like a lot like an Apple event, and I'm hoping somebody might actually change that format one of these days soon, because I swear there was more video showing than people actually talking. But one of the things that was interesting was they were positioning this new phone and all the other phones going forward as your AI companion. And for example, they were talking about how you might be walking down on a subway somewhere and there's an ad for a concert, and you'll take a picture of said concert, and then it will automatically drop that into your calendar, and then not their agent, but some other agent might therefore then go out and buy those tickets for you, and that whole process just becomes something that starts with a click of a photo on your phone. I think we're a ways away from making that kind of everybody's everyday experience, because you got to upgrade your phones in the first place. But Alan, it does seem to me that our relationship with our phones is about to change.
Yeah, no, I don't think we're as a ways away as you think we are. I think it's really right around the corner. Couple things here. First of all, I don't want to discount the idea of this foldable phone, right? Because I think it's attractive. Let me just say from the outset, I'm an iPhone user, an Apple guy. So I'm not going to use this phone, but I like the idea of the foldable phone. And if you look at the screen specs, it really is a beautiful screen. I mean, it's a nice screen with great technology behind it. And maybe we're going to need a bigger screen to communicate or interact with our AI agents and alter egos who are out there doing things for us. Beyond the foldable aspect of it, though, look, I think Samsung, again, is leading with innovation in a hot new area, right? Because, quite frankly, what's the difference between iPhone 16, 15, 14, 13, 12? It's incremental. There's not really nothing. And a lot of innovation does seem to happen on the Android side of the house and with Samsung. And I think their use of AI here, again, positions them as more of a leading edge. You look at the ho-hum Apple Intelligence was all about what's on the comm. Samsung's showing you some real functionality here. It may not all be available, but it's real functionality. The bigger issue, though, is look, eventually the iPhone catches up, and they're within a release of each other, and they have very similar features. What this means is that all of our phones are going to be our AI gateways, right? Think of them as our digital agents, our digital workers, as Salesforce calls them, right? Our digital workers out there doing these kinds of tasks for us. And not just tasks, but really kind of thinking for us as well. And I mean, more, just taking it to the next level. Now, I think the issue, though, is where we could see a potential roadblock is how much computing power, how much AI computing power can we put on these phones? If you look at the specs on this Fold 7, right, it's on, I believe it's on a Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 or something chip, isn't it? Or it's chipset. But there's GPU, there's CPUs, there's, what was it, 12 gigabits of,
There's an NPU in there too.
And an MPU. I mean, this is all great. Is that going to be enough to run the AI in our pocket? Or is it still going to have to phone home to get AI done?
So I'm not sure.
Yeah, I was going to say,
I'm not sure
yours.
if you saw the announcement this week. I think it might have been even yesterday. OpenAI is buying Jony Ive's hardware startup. Jony is the designer of the iPhone, the architect. Nobody knows what they're actually doing. It's well kept under wraps. There's a lot of speculation about whether or not this is eyeglasses or something along those lines. And then Wall Street saying, okay, so this could drive OpenAI to $1 trillion valuation, blah, blah, blah. I think the statement here, you're right. The consideration is this going to talk to the cloud? It has to. In my opinion, we'll see if they can do it differently. But the other piece of that is, where is this going? Strategically, how are these folks envisioning us using the devices? I mean, when Tesla says, or Musk comes out and says Grok is now going to be in Tesla here within the next week. Okay, that changes. So I think all of these pieces of that, we look as devices and look at how we interact with things. This AI is not just the phone, it's the car, it's a lot of other things that we're going to be seeing where this AI plays out in.
Yeah, could I just say, oh yeah, I was just going to say this all, frankly, I'm sitting here like everybody's saying this is revolutionary. This isn't revolutionary. This is just evolutionary. When you look at it, I mean, a foldable phone, oh my God, does anybody remember the Motorola Razors? I mean, I'm like, that's innovation. We're going back. It's
but to be fair,
but I'm like,
that was a flip phone, Ira. These are not flip phones. These are one
like
big
screen technology,
Yeah.
and I appreciate that. I hated moving to like a BlackBerry and then on to an Apple because they didn't fold and put in my pocket well. But with the AI though, it's really just an evolution, because you stop and think like, all of a sudden everything's just evolved as the technology is. And when you start to think how seamless can things be, it will be, in my opinion. And it has become more and more. Like, for example, QR codes on advertisements allow my phone to pick something up, pull up directions, do whatever else. Now we're talking about taking a picture, interpreting that, have an agentic AI kind of go out there. I'm more concerned, frankly, a little bit about the security and privacy again, because you look at this and yes, no matter what, whether or not it goes out to the cloud to process, because when you put something in your phone, it has to do a query. Now, with regard to how fast the chip is, the chip doesn't have all the data set. The chip will just have to process and do basic things, but then still have to go out and pull things. And frankly, if I have your cell phone today, I can pretty much put your life together. I don't know how many people remember, for example, Google Friends, where it's like, okay, broadcast your location to all your friends. I'm like, what part of this seems like a good idea from a privacy perspective? Now we're talking about, like you're saying, here's, let me take a picture and, everything seems wonderful, honestly, that I'm going to have an AI assistant. Like, for example, I want to know if it's going to rain. And I just say, Siri, is it going to rain? And all of a sudden, I get like a weather report saying, okay, where am I? What's the weather for today? Now, if I go ahead and say, Siri, I'm hungry, put out my basic, I don't know, Chick-fil-A order. It has to go ahead, process this, understand it, and then interact with Chick-fil-A and make an order for me. And it knows what are my preferences, what everything is out there about. When you put a query out, it's telling you what you think. There's a difference between a tracking mechanism and people knowing what your Google searches are, people knowing where your maps are going, people knowing what you're ordering from stores, all brought in together. And I'll just leave it there because I think it
I
speaks
want to
for
respond
itself.
to that. There's two separate parts of this. One is the horsepower needed to do these, whether they're revolutionary or evolutionary, to perform this AI parlor tricks, and they're not just parlor tricks. To perform this AI, there's a certain amount of horsepower needed, and phoning it out to the cloud or wherever is going to introduce latency as well as security issues, right? It's probably more secure if I kept it on my phone versus sending it out for now. And when you think about it, these little pocket rockets that are in our pockets, right? There's more computing power on the one you have in your pocket today than there was on the Apollo 11, I think it was 11, that landed on the moon, right? We have more computing power in our pocket than Neil Armstrong had landing on the moon. But that's not enough for this next generation. And, technology, we used to have Moore's Law. You always said, don't worry, we're going to double computing capacity in 18 months. Well, we haven't been hitting those numbers in Moore's Law, but certainly here on mobile devices, we're seeing a revolutionary change, not a revolutionary change, but an exponential increase in computing power on board. Ira, to your point, though, I read an article just this morning on this, that the fact of the matter is the large hyperscalers, the large collectors of information, the Googles, the Apples, the Metas, X, Twitter, whatever you want to call it, they continually are adding to the treasure trove of information they have about each one of us, our habits, our likes, our dislikes, our travels, and everything else. And until, I don't know if it's a countrywide thing, a personal thing, but until people say, I'm fed up, goddammit, and I won't take it anymore, it's not going to change.
There's an interesting premise in Mike's story, which is in AI, the TechStrong AI, and it's these two major providers, smartphones and tablets, are basically locked in this AI arms race, and that's going to affect millions and millions of people, if not more. And it's interesting to me when we talk about evolution. I think we should also mention transitional, because Apple, in a sense, I think, and what I've been hearing through the company and people who've left the company, is that they're, in a sense, kind of in a transition from the iPhone era to the AI device era. I'm not saying the iPhone's going to go away, but there might be a new device that.
But that's the whole, to Camberley's point, right, John? That's the whole thing behind the Johnny Ive's smart.
That's where I'm going to next, because that deal just closed, and from all indications OpenAI is going to have some sort of device within a year, maybe 6 months, which also will have an influence on Apple, because Apple is looking at ways to build out their AI presence. And they're looking at companies like Perplexity, and in a sense, even teaming with a company or buying it outright to develop an AI search engine that would twin with Siri. There's like a series of things that are going to happen, and Meta's going to do the same thing. So we've got all these kind of transition as we go back to 2007, right? Steve Jobs, we have the iPhone, which is now our computer in our pocket. And now we're probably in this era where we move to an AI device, which is the next iteration of a phone.
Well, I just want to, sorry, if I could just reiterate a critical point. When people talk about AI, and I hate the term because it's too broad, it's too nebulous, but AI requires two things. And this is where I have to keep harping on it. AI requires processing capability. It requires, well, actually three things: algorithms, processing capability, and data. Algorithms have been around. We could tweak the algorithms or whatever, but they've been around for decades. Processing power allows the algorithms to function more efficiently. However, the key thing is still the data. The data you need is not going to be on your phone. The data you need is going to be out in the ether, the internet, whatever networks develop. And so while it's critical that we are talking how much processing can be done on the cell phone itself, which means maybe it could be more efficient, you're still going to have all the concerns about going out and seeking data, because until you're at the point where you can put all the data of the internet and all the functionality on the phone as well, which will never happen, you're still going to have to go out to the rest of the world. And we're talking, I mean, frankly, this is an engineering issue that was released, that we have an AI phone. No, you have chips that can process AI algorithms more effectively, but you are still going to have to go out and get the data. And whether the queries are done on the phone itself or the queries are done, it still has to do the queries itself. It has to still search, bring all the data back it needs, and then do more things. Anyway, I'll leave it there for that.
I'll tell you what I am concerned about that goes beyond the IT and the security and all those other things is, are we going to live in a world soon where my AI agents are going to call your AI agents and I may never actually interact with you or have a conversation with you, and it's just going to be kind of AI agents doing
What are
this
you
back
talking
and
about?
forth?
It's Wall-E, the movie Wall-E. You'll be,
I
Well,
I
and that is
actually-
what's so important, I think, of what's happening with the OpenAI acquisition is that, and Ira, I agree with you, there's three elements there. The fourth element is their interface. And that what potentially is happening here is we're having a rethinking of what those interfaces are going to be like.
the human computer interface.
So what is that major interface? And that's going to be a race to what that is. And most likely it's going to be some level of a small device that we can hold in our hands because we want to carry it around and look at it. But I think that's where these guys are going. Is
There was that one company that had the pin, if you remember. That didn't go over so good. No. Anyway, hey, we're over time. We got to stop on this. Look, we're not stopping. We're going to be talking about this, I have a feeling, for weeks, months, years. But let's take a break here on Tech Strong Gang. We're going to come back and AI can't make up legal citations and courts can't rely on them, or can they? You're watching Tech Strong Gang.